Hello friends, welcome to another episode of the Best to Do This application tutorial. In this video we're going to create the sign-up page for creating accounts, and also we're going to add some validations to the input fields. For example, this is the kind of validations I'm talking about. The name should be at least 3 characters long. The email must be valid. Password must be at least 8 characters long too. And if the user exists already, for example, this user exists already in the database, so when I click sign up, I get this pop-up error indicating that the user exists already. So before we move to the code, before we go to our editor, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also like and share. Don't forget to comment below on the good and bad sides of this application. If it's good, just comment it. If it's bad, just comment it. That's going to help. So to our code base. So this is what we did in the last video. We were able to create 2 reusable components, the context, create data context used to connect our app component to the provider, the context provider, with the state and actions. And we also created the layout component. This is a reusable component for our applications. This is going to give the layout for our application. For example, the layout component has the nav bar and the footer below. So these are the layout. This is the layout component, and the children is whatever component we pass as a child component to the layout. So let's go and start creating our sign up component. So inside our components directory, we're going to create an auth folder in that component. Inside the auth folder, create your sign up JSX, and let's add styles. Good. So for our styles, we're going to have, this is the style we're going to have for this sign up. Well, this style is, we're going to create a styled component called auth form wrapper. It is going to be reusable on both the sign in and sign up forms. So let me copy and paste the style. So this is our style. We are exporting the auth wrapper with the width of 40%, radius and margin. So let's go here and create our sign up component. And let's remember to wrap the sign up with the layout component inside the layout component as a child of the layout component. Let's make sure we import that. We will now import the auth form wrapper. And the auth form wrapper is going to wrap the form. So inside this auth form wrapper, let's create the header. And here we have form groups. Inside this form group we have label, input, full name. Let's connect our let's copy and paste this first. So we have enter email. So I'm going to break these input fields because it's going to be very long. So this is good. And, so let's connect this sign up component to our app. So here, to do that, to connect it to our app, we need React Router DOM. We need to install React Router. We're going to use React Router to navigate in our application. So I'm going to import as router, and here I'm going to connect the components to the React Router. So this is going to be router, wrap the other components inside router. So I'm going to have exact component, landing component, sign up component, sign up component, import that. Good. Now we've set up the routing for the sign up component. Let's go and handle that navbar. So I'm going to wrap this with the navbar module from the React Router DOM, from the navlink module, sorry. To sign up. Now let's make sure navlink is imported. Let's import it. Good. So let's go and test our application, making sure our routes are our servers are running. So this is our backend server, while this is our front-end server. So we have an error in our front-end server. Navbar not defined. That's in layout component. I'm going to remove this like that. So we are inside it. Now when we click, it takes us to the sign up page. This is the sign up page. So we see these are just raw form. Let's fix that our form. Let's give it some styles. So here I'm going to pass it bootstrap classes, our form control. So you notice this one changed immediately I passed that. So let's do this. Let's do the same for the other input fields. And that's very well working now. Good. Let's add our sign up button. So this is just raw button. We need to add it some stuff. I'm going to give it some bootstrap classes again. btn, that's it, and btn. I'm going to give it a color, the blue color. Good. So we have our sign up button. Next, let's give it in case the user already has an account. So I'm going to give it a p tag with float left. This is a bootstrap class. Let's import the nav link component from React Router. Nav link. I'm going to say sign in to sign in. Let's make sure that's imported. So we have that already. That's good. We are good to go with the sign up form. We need to centralize the header and also give it some padding, some margin. Give the form some margin. So here I'm going to give it a class name text center. Centralize. I want to give a margin to the form, a margin top of 4. Good. So this is good to go now. This is our form. Everything is working well. So now we are going to add validation to the form. That's the next step. Let's add some validations to this form. To do that, we need to first of all declare our state variables. I'm going to use state, and I'm going to need the use context here. So this is I'm going to have 4 state variables for the credentials, and also 4 state variables for the errors, the validation errors for each input field. So in total, I'm going to have 8 state variables. So let's declare state for errors. I'm just going to copy this and modify it. Call it name error. So I'm just adding the error on all of them. Now that we've declared our state variables, let's have an event handle change. This is going to take the event and the name attribute on each input field. Good. So let's pass that on change event handler to each input field. Change. So I'm going to give it name. For the name input field, I'm going to pass it this name here. Here I'm going to pass it the email. Password. confirm password. That's good. So in our handler, I'm going to declare a constant called user, an object which is an empty object, and also another one called email regex, which is going to hold a regular expression, this function that takes as parameter a regular expression. This regular expression is the expression that we will use to validate our email address. So we can get the email regex here at emailregex.com. Look, the regex, copy the regex for JavaScript. This is it. I'm going to copy that and paste it here. So this is it. Good. And next we will now pass in the name. Like we are going to add the credentials to this user object. The user's credentials equals to user. So right now, whenever there is a change in the input fields, we are assigning those values as we are assigning the name as a key to the user and passing it a value. Good. And this is where our validation. This is where we do our validation. It's going to be a switch statement, takes the name as key. Then the value, it's going to be our first case is name, where name is equal to name, where there is a change in the name input field. I'm going to do this. I'm going to set name. I'm going to call the set name function, and I'm going to pass user dot name. So I'm updating the state name with user dot name, and I'm going to check if the username dot len is less than 3. Set the error to root, else pass it an empty string. Then we're going to break the statement. Another case, I'm just going to copy and paste. So we have 4 cases. The second case is email. Passing the user email. Then we're going to check if that email is not valid. So if email regex.test is not valid, if it's not valid, I'm going to set email error to password. Password must be at least 8 characters. Confirm password. So I'm going to check if user that confirm password is not equal to password, that is the state password. If they are not the same, I'm going to give it an error. Confirm password error of password do not match. So we are good to go. Our validation is okay now. Let's try to see if that works. Let's console log the user and let's see the name error. So let's go to that. User not defined. So we have a name. No error yet. Name must be at least 3 characters. So let's check email, invalid email. So the errors are being created. So we're good with the errors. Let's apply the errors. Let's apply the errors here on the import field. We're going to install another dependency called class names. We will be using this dependency to conditionally apply some bootstrap classes to the input fields. So here, instead of this class like that, this is how we're going to use class names. We have class names. Class names. I'm going to give this like that. Then this is where we will conditionally apply some bootstrap classes. But before that, let's import class names. So we have class names. I'm going to conditionally apply a bootstrap class called is invalid. That is, if this invalid if the name error exists, if the name error exists. If there is an error in the name, it should be invalid. This is it. So name is less than 3 characters. So by the time it gets to 3 characters, the error goes. So this is okay for this. But then that tick, there was a tick we had for when the name is valid. This tick, to apply this tick, I'm using another bootstrap class called is valid, on the condition that there is no name error and name exists. There is a name. So it works already. This is our form here. So it works. We have the class being applied. And the next thing we need to do is to give it the error, to display the error message down here. Let's expand this. So this is where I'm going to pass the error for this in a small text. Danger. I'm going to give it name error. So whenever there is a name error, we have this. Well, I'm going to conditionally, I want to conditionally render this. So there won't be a small tag if the name error is undefined. So we have, so our error works, our validation works. Let's apply the same validation to other input fields. and here. Now let's do the C here. Good. Something here. And lastly, so we're good to go. Okay, we have a problem with the email. Good, this is the problem. So we have password has some error too. Password the validation password should be 8 characters long. Good, so our validation is good and it's okay now. Let's go and handle the sign up. Let's handle our sign up feature now. So we're going to create another event log. Good. So inside here, it's expecting the event to prevent default. So we're preventing the form from auto submitting. So passing an unsubmit event listener. We're going to give it handle submit sign up. Good. So here, the next thing we need to do is to check if there is no error on the application. If we have no errors, then we can submit the form. If there is no error and all the credential, the fields, the state contain value, all the state variables contain values. So I'm going to check if name exists. If the credentials are given, if they are supplied, and there is no error, then submit the sign up the user. So I'm expecting to receive the sign up function as a property in the sign up component. The sign up component's props. So it's supposed to come from here. I'm expecting to receive it there. So but we didn't pass it anywhere in this code. So we need to pass that sign up here in the app component. We need to pass it here. We need to look for a way to pass it, but it's impossible to pass it like that. To do that, there is another property of this route component called render. This render permits you to, it takes a function that will return the component. Now this is our sign up component. I'm going to pass in the sign up as parameter. The sign up takes an async function. So this function takes in the user as a property, as parameter, and we're going to do our request, send the request here, sign up with user. Make sure that's imported in our context. So we need the context, use context. I'm going to say use context. So then we pass in our context coming from auth context. Remember, we exported in the previous video, we exported the context. We created a context here. This is where we created our context. We attached it here. So we exported that context. We destructured the context and the provider in this create data context coming from this file and exported it as named export. So I'm importing the context. So I'm going to, this is where the context is supposed to go. I have context. And here, this is the value. This is the value we exported. This is the value we applied here. This is that value. The returned value here, this returned value is going to be this object that we passed as the value prop, that we passed to the value prop of context provider. So we are going to receive the, for now I have no use of the state variable here, so I'm just going to get the structure out the action, which is our sign up action. So we are using the sign up action here. Now let's go back to our sign up page. I'm going to now do an async action, an async call. So I'm going to call that sign up function and pass it the user credentials, which is name, email, password. We don't need to pass the confirmed password because we are not saving that in the database. Good, so this is good. Now let's go and look at our actions. So this is how our action is. We have the starts with the loading, goes to success, later to error. Now let's not call this error. This is because when a request fails, we need to dispatch a failure action. Here we're dispatching a success action, while here is the loading action. So let's see how, let's console log this and see, let's console log our state variable here and see what we get. To do that, I'm going to import the state inside the use context. So that's how data is being distributed in the application. Get the state variable inside the use context. And I'm going to pass in our context. We need to import the context from. Now we have it here. I'm going to pass that context as parameter. So this is our state. Let's console log this state. So after this, when we run this, I want to console log the state variable. So we have an error here. Okay, I need to close this component tag. Okay, this is our component. So let's sign up. Nothing, doesn't work. Let's see where we are having that problem. Let's look at the action creator. Let's look at our reducer. Case of failure. Let's add a case of failure. Maybe our error is coming from there. I'm just going to go to log the action here. So let's do that again. So there is no error. Let's see. This is where we have the error. We misspelled success. So let's we run that with a new column. So good. So our user is getting dispatched to Redux, and not Redux, context. So this is the state from the context. So one last thing we're going to add is the pop-up, the validation pop-up. Let's see, when the user exists already, we get an error saying the user exists already. That comes still from the backend. So we are going to initialize another state variable. We're going to call it off error or sign up error. We call it sign up error. We're going to name it use state up error. So, and that error comes from the state variable. So this is where we are going to place the error. So I'm going to say, but first we need to make sure we are getting the error. We are setting the error variable in our reducer. So let's go to the initial state and add another state variable called sign up error. So back to our reducer. When it's an error, I'm going to do a sign up error. It's going to take action the payload error. Good. So we are passing that to the state already. Let's go back to our sign up component and we're going to receive it here. So we don't even need to set another state variable here. So when that error occurs, you just need to display it. I'm going to say state dot sign up error. State dot sign up error. If it exists, we should display it. I'm going to get a span of the state dot sign up error. This is going to have a class name, and also I'm going to center align this text. Center not defined. So let's sign in with the user who exists already. So we get user exists already. Now that is not capitalized. I want to capitalize the text. So let's do it again. And we get our error. So this is how our form is. And everything will good now. So I'm going to end here. In the next video we are going to work on the sign-in component. We're going to build the sign-in component and also give it the same validation errors. So the sign-in component is going to be, the video for the sign-in component is going to be shorter than this, because we're just going to replicate the same code. We're going to do a copy and paste mostly. So guys, if you find this video useful, please comment down below or click the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe to be updated whenever I upload a new video. So see you in the next video.